Hi, my name is Caitlin Graham. Welcome to Intercool's interview with Doug Sooley, owner and consultant of Sooley Safety Services. With Fire Prevention Week here, we're taking some time to focus on safety. This year's Fire Prevention Week campaign is about lithium-ion batteries and making sure we're charging and storing the devices we use every day in safe ways. When we first started planning this interview, we called around asking to connect with a fire safety professional who could share some practical insights, and we kept hearing Doug Sooley's name coming up, so we thought we'd reach out to him. People told us he's the guy to talk to because of his knowledge, his hands-on approach, and how much he truly cares about keeping workplaces and communities safe. Sooley Safety Services is a company dedicated to helping businesses prevent accidents before they happen. Their slogan, "Prevent Not React," says it all. When companies take preventative measures, they avoid the accidents, hazards, and costly setbacks that can come from being unprepared. So Doug, thank you for joining us today for Fire Prevention Week. I just wanted to get started with asking you some questions about your company background and yourself. So if you could just dive into a little bit more about yourself and how you got started in safety services.
So I've been in the health and safety field for about 20 years now. It's funny, when I was 16, I got a job in a grocery store, and within the first 2 weeks, I was in the back of the grocery store trying to stack the empty pop trays, and we were stacking them into a dark trailer, and we couldn't see. And at 16, there was nobody that had really said, you need to be careful, and there should be lights and things like that. And unfortunately, the stack I didn't see was not stacked properly, and it actually fell over and hit me in the face. So I was actually off for a
Oh
couple
my
of weeks.
gosh.
But so it was a little, that was kind of a situation where it was like, after that, I actually started thinking at that point, why did this happen? Like, why couldn't we prevent this from happening to begin with? And um, it kind of maybe started the mindset for me at that point. And, it'd be a lot better to be able to, prevent these things from happening to begin with, instead of, afterwards. It's like, oh yeah, we'll go home and all this and go file your report, do your report, we'll do our, like, so on and so forth. And, I ended up at school and everything like that, and came back and started working. And every company I had worked in, whether it was in the forestry, retail, call center at one point as well, I'd always ended up being on the Joint Health and Safety Committee. And because I really felt that I could look at things very logically and try, just basically look at it and be like, well, why can't we do it this way? Or is there a safer way to do this? And um, I ended up in transport after a while, and I was actually in transport for about 8 years. And then I slowly started to build a network of what ended up being potential clients at that point. And basically, they kept asking questions, and, they asked about training, and I started to get more skills in doing certain types of training, such as, lift trucks and things like that. And I ended up deciding that it was time to kind of go out on my own. And so I ended up going out on my own about 10 years, and I'm actually celebrating 10 years this year. So,
Awesome.
um,
Congrats.
and it was just, and ultimately the idea was finding ways to help clients ultimately be able to solve their health and safety problems, or address some of the health and safety issues that might come up. Every workplace is different, and every situation is different as well. So it's not a one size fits all. And finding some unique solutions to certain situations that help employers comply with requirements, but also ultimately help protecting everybody in the workplace, and allowing them to go home at the end of the day, as I say, with all of your fingers and all of your toes intact. So,
Yeah, that's awesome. So off of that, can you expand a little bit more on what your company does exactly and then how you help businesses with their safety?
yeah, so we are a health and safety training and consulting firm. So, um, I work with businesses to, maybe update workers' training. So if it's a manufacturing facility, I can do training on things like lift trucks and WMIS. I even do some fire safety basics training as well, extinguishers. or it could be construction, and it might be setting up things like working at heights or helping them with certain types of equipment training that they might need on site, doing mask training and stuff like that as well. But then also, I can help clients put health and safety programs together. We review kind of everything that they have going on from an operational standpoint, review their business layout, whether it's one building or whether it's multiple buildings in multiple locations, and put together a health and safety program that works for them, that not only has a compliance aspect that needs to be in place, but also making sure that it really fits their business and it's something that they can actually implement and maintain. It's one thing to have a health and safety program written and then it sits in a binder on a shelf and collects dust. That's not really
Yeah, for sure.
it's not really a beneficial use of that program, right? Whereas let's put
Mm-hmm.
something we I help clients put together programs that they can actually use and will actually use in the workplace, and it kind of matches what they're doing, and it helps them kind of implement health and safety into the day-to-day activities, which in the end ultimately helps them prevent any accidents and prevent issues from arising. So most business owners, I mean, they have an understanding in the sense of that isn't safe, but from a development standpoint or developing that health and safety program, business owners have a lot to do. And that's where I can really help and kind of take that side of it for them and let them focus on growing their business. So,
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. So I'm going to shift a little more towards some fire safety. And since this week, or for Fire Prevention Week this week, it is on lithium ion battery safety. I just wanted to
okay.
know if you have one or two maybe simple tips that people could use for lithium ion batteries.
I think one of the biggest things with lithium ion batteries is I think a lot of people assume they can just throw them into the garbage and it's all, it's all up in the board. And unfortunately, the risk of fire that can occur from that is actually really high. So they do have to be disposed of properly, taking them into proper recycling centers where they have specific areas to drop for those, and keeping them away from potential heat sources as well. Whether it's even in a garbage, whether it's like furnaces and things like that, like keeping them away from obvious fire sources and stuff like that too. So.
Yeah, thank you. So shifting more towards just like everyday fire prevention, what would you say are some of the most common fire hazards you see in buildings and for businesses?
Some of the common ones that I see are doorways being blocked. People assume that an emergency exit is only used in an emergency, so it's not used all the time. So it's okay to block it for 5 seconds or 10 seconds. And that's probably one of the most common things that I come across from a fire safety standpoint. So they have to be kept accessible. They have to be, you can't have to move around things to be able to get to that door, because when there is an emergency, even a lighting system like your exit lights, they're all pointed to those exits and it provides a
Mhm.
path when the power goes out. And if there's something in the way, you're not going to see that when that power goes out. So keeping those accessible, that's a big one too. Fire extinguishers that might have been taken off of their rack or not mounted at all is also a fairly common one that I see at times too. They do need to be mounted off the ground. Make sure that they're a minimum of 18 inches off the ground at the bottom of the extinguisher. And um, you need to make sure that if they are taken off and if they have been used, don't just put them back on. They have to actually be recharged and recertified before they go back onto their mount and into position. So those are two of the common ones. I would say another one is at places sometimes try to buy them themselves, which is great, but they might have enough, and I think it's sometimes they don't have them in the right spots either because it might not be convenient for them.
Yeah. So speaking of fire extinguishers, how often should they be inspected or replaced? And same with smoke detectors.
So fire extinguishers need to be inspected on a monthly basis. The inspection is fairly simple. It's just checking the gauge and checking the condition and making sure it's actually mounted. Those are really the three things that have to be checked on monthly. On an annual basis, they have to be checked where they're actually the inspector will come in and actually help resuspend the material inside of them, depending on the type of extinguisher it is. That has to be done every year. That's what the fire code says. It needs to be done every year. It needs to be done by someone who is certified to do those inspections as well. The monthly inspections can be done by someone in-house because of the basic components to it. Smoke detectors need to be checked every year as well. Fall is always a great time to make sure that you check your smoke detectors to make sure that they're working. Um, but you should always make sure that you're also keeping an eye on them throughout the year as well. Signs that the smoke detector might not be working are flashing red lights. It might mean that the battery is running low or needs to be replaced in those cases as well. And same with your carbon monoxide detectors as well.
Cool. Thank you. And then what would you say are maybe a top three or however many fire prevention actions that you think are often overlooked?
I think a big one that's overlooked is, again, it comes down to doorways and clutter. Keeping things neat and organized is probably one of the biggest things that gets overlooked sometimes. Businesses, depending on the type of business, they might have their busy periods and they might not be able to keep up with some of the maintaining and cleanliness that they need to. So things might get pushed to the side, but that ultimately ends up being an area where it could be a concern if a fire does start. Um, Doing those monthly checks, checking on even exit lights and things like that as well, testing them is something that I think sometimes gets overlooked as well. And I think making sure that staff understand what to do if there is a fire. We can do everything that we can to try and prevent it, but sometimes they do still happen. And if your staff don't know what to do if there's a fire, then that can cause a potential catastrophe in the workplace.
Yeah, for sure. And then just shifting a bit more towards like mechanical fire hazards. Have you noticed that there's any specific early warning signs of a potential mechanical fire hazard?
Um, I would say early warning signs of potential mechanical fire could be maintenance or lack of maintenance. It could be, um, if it's in a piece of equipment, it could be an odd smell that might be coming from it. Sulfur type of smell or rotten eggs could be an issue. It could be a leak, especially if it is a fuel source or fuel powered piece of equipment. Um, it's anything that has maybe a burning sensation or a burning smell that might be coming from it, such as any sort of like conveyor line or any sort of type of equipment that might be running. Exhaust that is blocked out and is kind of like seeping into the actual room is a major concern as well. Uh, those would be kind of the things that I would look out for, and I'm usually looking out for when I go out on site to visit clients. So.
Awesome, thank you. And then just in general, if you could give people one or two key takeaways for Fire Prevention Week, what would it be?
I think the biggest thing is be diligent and maintain your practices that are helping prevent fires. And also make sure you have a plan if it does happen and make sure people understand it and what they need to do and who's responsible for getting people out, but also where to go. A lot of people think they can leave the building and it's okay, but making sure that you have the proper area to go and how long you need to stay there and who's going to take attendance and who deals with the fire department and things like that. And a lot of these things can sometimes get taken for granted with some businesses because it's like, well, we're really small. We're not really here very often. But all it takes is one instance. And we always
Yeah.
want to try to prevent instead of having to react to these situations.
Yeah, for sure. How often would you say that those plans should be reviewed?
Fire safety plans should be reviewed annually, or if there is a fire incident that occurs.
Okay,
That's
that
kind
makes
of the
sense.
minimum according to fire code is every year. Um, but if there's changes to a fire plan as well, then, or to a layout or to the business, then it should also be reviewed at that point as well.
That makes sense. And then can you please share where people can learn more about fire prevention and general safety tips?
There's a lot of great resources online. I know that a lot of your the local city websites, especially the fire department websites, will have all kinds of tips and information that you can follow. Um, Many of the consultants and things out in the field and in the industry, including myself, have some blogs and things like that on our websites as well. You can find some on my own website actually. Including this month will be specific to fire safety because of Fire Prevention Week, but um, there's a lot of great information there. You can reach out to your local fire department as well, and they can come in and they can have a conversation with you as well about some of your requirements specific and point you in the right direction on where you might need to get further information. So,
That's great. Thank you. And before we wrap up, is there anything you'd like to add just overall?
I think it's one of those things that it can creep up on you really quickly. And if you're not prepared for it, and the only thing you can do is be as prepared as you can if there is a fire and take
For
the
sure.
steps to kind of prevent it as much as you possibly can. And make sure your extinguishers are in good shape. Make sure your fire systems are checked every year as well. Make sure that they're functioning as well. Um, if we let these things slide and we let them kind of get relaxed a little too much, anytime that happens, it's Murphy's Law. Accidents always happen at that point. So,
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for joining me today. It was great speaking with you and learning more about safety and fire prevention. And for anyone listening, be sure to call Doug at 416-984-1107, or you can email him at doug@SooleySafetyServices.ca for your safety solutions and to discover how to better prevent, not react. Thank you.
thank you very much.